to Agile Mauritius. I'm Jeremy. I'm a member of Agile Mauritius, and I'm really happy to welcome you all to our first meetup of the year today. And a big welcome to our speaker, Alain Buzzacaro, who will be sharing about raising the executives committee's awareness about agility and enlightened leadership. So very interesting talk, but here we'll look around how do we convince the executive committee about the stakes of agility and engage each leader either individually and collectively. So usually after the exploration phase, agility has entered around maturation phase. So it's going to be, it is even going beyond delivering software. So it's more about how can we, agility can impose itself on the scale of a whole enterprise. So it then becomes very useful to really inculcate the decision makers of the enterprise around this famous agility, agile. So based on Alain's experience with quite a dozen number of executive committees, he will share about how can we the different building blocks of how to design this descriptive full day workshop so as to create, to have concrete results. And above all, it's an opportunity for us to reflect on the different strengths at an individual level and a collective level so that we can support the enterprise transformation. So just before I hand over to Alain, maybe a brief intro about today's speaker. So Alain is a transformational leader, change maker, and even enterprise hacker. And thanks to his experience acquired in various contexts from small startups to big companies, Alain strives to create the conditions to develop leaders, develop autonomous teams to support the digital transformation so that we can emerge as an agile organization. So today, Alain is the CTO of L'Occitane, and he shares his convictions during different conferences with companies and large schools. And today we are very lucky to have him here with us in Mauritius. But without further ado, I hand over to you, Alain, for your precious sharing today.
Thank you, Jeremy. First of all, it's always weird to hear somebody talking about you on the third person, you know. so let's take it seriously, but with a lot of humility. So I'm just here to share things, and I'm super happy to be here actually in Mauritius and sharing with you. And I will explain to you why I'm here. But really, thank you, Danusha, a lot. Jeremy and Harold for hosting. I will share my presentation and I'll try to make it 40 minutes, but please interrupt me anytime. Please do so. So I'll share my screen, put it, not used to this one. Here we go. Can you see it now? Yes?
Yep. Yeah.
Yeah, perfect. All right. So I think you said quite a lot already, Jeremy, about me. I'm CTO of L'Occitane. L'Occitane is I mean, we are making cosmetics, and I have several experience, but the goal is not necessarily to talk so much about me, but to share what I've done. But so you know, I have been introduced to Agile in 2004, so it's been already quite a lot of years. I was lucky enough to have mentors on it. I didn't invent anything. I'm just sharing what I've learned through their guidance. And so I will explain a little bit. And I've been working in a company called Octo Technology, really well known in France because it really became an agile company. So that's also part of my experience. So yes, I'm totally passionate by transformation, agile and cultural, what we call cultural transformation. And that's often I say, I like to cultivate and create an environment for people to grow. But at the same time, I didn't find any other ways to do that than hacking the system. So A friend of me told me, "You're a cultivator." So I like that play on words. You know, I'm a cultivator now, cultivator. So the reason I'm talking to you today here in Mauritius is actually very simple and actually very cute. Tell me it's not true. It's him. It's the reason I'm here. It's Edgar. Edgar is born in November. And thanks to L'Occitane, I have 12 weeks of paternity leave, which as part of the the executive committee of L'Occitane, what did people say? Yeah, congrats, thank you, Danisha. Sorry. Because of L'Occitane, I have 12 weeks of paternity leave, and I'm the ambassador of this measure, of this policy in my company, and it was, you know, a good reason to be here and a good reason to be showing that by example that I was able to take these 12 weeks. And to be honest, we're enjoying it with my wife. We decided to come 7 weeks in Mauritius to discover your beautiful island, your country, your culture, the people, and how great the people are. And we knew that because we are here, because we have friends also that are Mauritian. And we know that the people in Mauritius are very generous, hospitable, and we ask ourselves, how can we give back a little bit in a very humble way? And so I hope my way to give back a little bit to your hospitality is by sharing my part of my experience. All right, so what I will do is I will present, it doesn't matter the agenda, but what I wanted to say is here, I will share part of my experience. And an experience, it's not a best practice or whatever, it is what I've done and what I've seen working and what I've seen not working. But you need, as an agile person, you need to take it for information and you need to adjust based on your context. So it's not, again, it's not a best practice, it's what I've learned also. What I will discuss is, the problem is this one. We are talking about companies that are not agile, fully agile yet, okay? So maybe you work in this type of company, which was, you know, previously very hierarchical company, very control-based, and that wants to embrace agility. Doesn't matter which level they are at this point, but mainly a lot of these companies are not fully agile in their work. And so the question is, how do you make sure that the company has the best setup for agility? So I will not discuss how to make agility. I will discuss about something that is very important, is if you want this type of company to become agile, you need to make sure that the top management understands what is agility. Because as Frederic Laloux says, the level of consciousness of an organization is never, it's rarely more than the level of consciousness of a top management. And I repeat that because it's very important, because we'll discuss about consciousness a lot. The level of consciousness of an organization is rarely higher than the level of consciousness of a top management. So if we take that as the starting point, the question is, how do we raise the level of consciousness of a top management? How can we make that? Okay. And this is what I will show you, what I've done in the last 6 years. Previously 3 years as a consultant, and now 3 years as a CTO, part of a company. So I have both experience from outside the company and inside the company. All right, so introduction. This is me. You don't recognize me much, but I have gray hair now. And I had a nice looking dog at the time being. And I was passionate about IT. And before I jumped into agility, that was my reading. Design patterns, how to make, I love these books. They were on my, you know, on my table all the time. And I joined a company called Octo, as I mentioned, that made me realize that that was important. IT is about code, is about being good at making good code, but it's not the reason why projects or products are good. The other reason is about people. And because in this company, they opened a new world about 2004, and this is the type of books that I was reading at the time being. Very interesting books, maybe some of you recognize, and I was introduced into this agility thing. So what I've, since 2004, what I've done with different contexts is how to deliver projects, deliver products in IT, because it's my world. So how to deliver that. So there are many practices, as you know, to deliver these things. And then after several experience, we were able to make it, you know, sometimes we took a project and we're able to deliver better and with less waste and things like this and better quality. But it wasn't enough. So the second step, it was clearly from 2004 to 2012, approximately, was to involve the business. And so we created connection. And of course, when you do an agile project, how do you say, the boundaries between business and IT or delivery is, it's blurry. So you create these teams. But now the questions after 2012, around 2012, was how do we become an agile enterprise? How do we introduce agility within the enterprise? Because as a consultant, we were asking ourselves, what we do, is there really an impact, a huge impact? Because the impact that you look when you do a new project, it's localized. And we had success. We saw some new things and it was nice, but never a massive impact on the enterprise. It was only a pocket, but somewhere people were doing things, but never a huge impact. So hopefully, I have a good friend, which is Harvard Business Review. And, you know, they always have great pages. I mean, the cover of Harvard Business Review is very interesting. And at this time, remember here, this one was agility at scale. The good thing about Harvard Business Review is top manager know it. I'm not saying they read it. They read only the cover, in my opinion, most of the time, but it's here. So the people read that, and suddenly there was this surge at the top management to understand what was agility, this new thing, these new ways of doing things, how to create a truly flexible organization. So the people suddenly, yeah. Is there a question? No. So the question was suddenly people coming to us and asking, please explain to us. So it started like this. Please come and teach Agile to the EXCOM, to the Comité de Direction in French. Oh, yes, but there is a catch. In 1 hour, because they are really busy people. Oh, okay. So, all right, at least we have 1 hour. It's important. We believe it's important. Agility is important. So we need to tell them. So what is an EXCOM? And I can tell you because I've been part of EXCOM for the last 15 years. And what I'm saying here is I truly believe it is often the case. First of all, it's a bunch of directors that are super busy all the time. Rarely express their emotions, vulnerability. You know, you need to be strong, your director. It's not a team. And here I wrote in often just to make it nice, but it's mainly often dysfunctional. People do not function together well, and very little listening skills. And actually I could add very little learning skills. How do we learn, which is based on, which is probably, if you do agility, one of the most important skills that you need to develop. And finally, it's largely driven by ego. So please, anybody shout out if you don't disagree, if you know different context, which could happen. I'll be happy to hear about it. Yeah, I don't see you, but I guess you sort of agree. All right. So what did not work? What did I do that I was like, not a complete failure, but almost? First of all, I did 1 hour presentation. Why didn't it work? Please write or speak up. What is your guess?
It's too long.
Sorry?
It's too long.
It's too long, 1 hour for these people? Yeah?
We have other stuff in mind.
They have other stuff in mind, which is they are not focused on the presentation. Yeah, that's true. They do other things. Usually it's buried into an agenda that is like 10 presentation during this special day, and you know. But the most difficult part is model versus model. Now, somebody wrote something. They present physically, but not mentally. True. That's totally true. So we'll see how to change that. But one thing is what we call model versus model. They have a model in the head, which is the one that worked, which is command and control, top down, waterfall, whatever previous way to do things. And you arrive with a new model. And actually in 1 hour, the only thing that a person will do is compare their model compared to yours. There's nothing, no discussions pretty much. There is no openness. There is no way to really be open and say, hey, that could work, blah, blah, blah. No, it's yours. And the way the question are asked is demonstrating that. It's like, yes, but, because they don't want to say no, but they say yes, but, you know? So that didn't work. After 1 hour, the people were always saying, oh, that was a great presentation. Thank you very much. But if I come back like 2 months later, they didn't change and nothing. So then we tried to use, you know, Lego for Scrum or any serious games. That didn't work. Why do you think? It's a little bit written.
I think it's too childish or too
exactly.
petty.
Yeah, it's egos versus egos. I mean, I've done that with different contexts, and the people, some people said, I'm not here to play. I'm like, no, you're not playing, you're learning. No, but I don't want to play with Legos in front of my peers or things like this. And there was always the question of hierarchy. I've done, you know, you probably done Lego for Scrum, and it works really well when the people are especially willing to be here, or there is not a lot of link in terms of hierarchy. Here with EXCOM, it was impossible to make that happen. Again, they were nice. They say, oh, that's interesting, but no impact whatsoever. All right, so what changed everything in my mind and the way I approached the thing was actually by chance. I was doing a cultural, what we call cultural shift mission. So a company was crazy enough to invite me to help them to change the culture of a company. And during a 2-day seminar, I was lucky enough to, and it's thanks to my wife, that said, hey, you need to invite this person. It's a mindfulness coach. And she came, and actually we cracked the thing. And because of this session about mindfulness in the middle of this question about agility and culture, we were able to really go deep, and I will explain to you how. All right, so what I've done so far is 3 building blocks to have a 1-day workshop. I'm not saying 1 day is enough, but sometimes it's only what you get. If you have more time, we can discuss and I can help you to design a better workshop. But sometimes 1 day is already what people are willing to spend. So very simple. There is a warm-up, there is awareness, and there is engagement. So I'll go through these 3 building blocks with different exercises, and you can add yours in the middle. So warm up, you need an icebreaker. I use this one, which is Picasso. It is a funny one. You ask people to draw the face of a pear without looking at the paper and without removing the pen from the post-it. So it creates an atmosphere. Of course, it's the goal of an icebreaker. But, you know, some people are just surprised that they will openly share things with others because they will, what I ask is, you do not present yourself, you present the other. And suddenly it changes a little bit the dynamic, and it works. It takes 15 minutes. It's easy. If you have other icebreaker, it's not a big deal, but always, even with an EXCOM, take the courage to do an icebreaker. Then the second thing I do is asking one question. What do I know about Agile? And you ask to answer individually the following question. What do I know about Agile? And then you ask, what do I want to know or clarify during this day? It's a funny thing that just answering these two questions individually and then sharing with the group, again, it's very, for us Agile people, it's common. But for an EXCOM, it's, again, a new challenge. And actually, some people are admitted that this is the first time they use Post-its, you know, so it's funny. But at this point, what is the most important is they will realize that they are starting not to be aligned. There are slight or even big things that they are not aligned. And when I'm talking about the EXCOM, obviously, is that you have the IT director that usually knows what is agility. You might have a marketing one, but sometimes, I don't know, the finance director has no clue what it is, whatsoever. You know, so sometimes you see here that there is a difference in terms of knowledge, and it's fine. Well, yeah, sorry, I put this reference of this book because even though Jeff Sutherland is somebody that co-created Scrum, he did something terrible with the title of his book because the people remember that the art of doing twice the work in half the time. And they think agility is just about speed and cost reduction, which is terrible, as you know. So this is when you will probably see that people saying quick and fast and less expensive, things like this, you know. So you need to start discussing a little bit about that. As I say, Agile is a way to deliver faster, more value, and it's very different. All right, so one big piece of the warm-up is the sense of urgency. It's very simple. If you've read one book from Cotter, what is this, Melting the Ice or whatever the title, it's the first step of change is, do we have a sense of urgency? Because if it's not urgent to change, then there is no change. If I don't step on the scale and I see that I'm overweighted, then I have no reason to lose weight, you know, whatsoever. So here in 30 minutes, you ask the people to write and to agree on 7 only reasons why it is important for them to change and to be agile. Why is it important to be agile? A very simple question. And here's an example. And actually, I've done this exercise and I've done this workshop for, I didn't say that, but for 12 or 15 companies right now. And I've done that for L'Occitane when I was a consultant. And that's the results when I've done it with them, with the EXCOM. And I can explain later, but this is after that they said, okay, you have great ideas, it works, so come and do it here. So this is when they hired me. All right, so you do that, and you do that in a way that doesn't introduce too many biases. Because, you know, if you ask 2 groups to do that, you know, some people will suddenly take the pen and write the 7 things and the other will not participate. So I'm sure you know that, but there are like the, shoot, I forgot the name. Help me, the little structures to do meetings, liberating structures, sorry. I've been in vacation for too long now. So liberating structures, and one of them is 1, 2 for all. So you ask people to think for themselves individually, then you put them in pairs, then you put by 4, and then you share with all. And you'll see just at this point how important it is, this sense of urgency. I've done that with some companies where the EXCOM realized they were not aligned at all. And not only on 1 or 2, but at least if they are not aligned on why it is important. I've done that recently with, and I can mention the company, it's called La Maïf. It's a mutual, a French mutual. It's a great company, great values and everything. And when I've done that with them, the EXCOM realized that they didn't like the word urgency because they have no urgency to change. And so they disagree on the 7 reasons why they needed to change. And they realized by saying that because there is no sense of urgency at the EXCOM, the agility was not going to be a reality, because not everybody was sharing the same reason to change. All right. So here, so far, what you want to know about agility and why you need to change. Simple. Now we enter in the second part, the second building block, which is the awareness. So actually we are here. Oh, I see my connection is unstable. Can you still hear me, please? Can you tell me?
Yeah.
Okay. So here, obviously we are here. The main question that the people ask you when they ask you to come is explain what is agility, of course. Explain to us, and with a matching wand in 1 hour, we'll know. So you need to at some point explain a little bit what is agility. But before explaining what is agility, you need to explain why we are here. Why suddenly we are talking about agility, and where does it come from? So I find it very, very important to explain the roots of agility. I have a way to explain it. Actually, it's very simple. You know what is agility. It comes from the beginning of years 2000. And actually, it comes because of the Agile Manifesto. But what we forget, we need to share that it is not only a revolution, but it's a rebellion. These people that some of them I've met and discussed with them, it was a rebellion. They were saying, fuck, that's enough. We are done with doing things the way the context is pushing us to do. And what is the context at the time being? It's big companies, software companies like IBM, like Sun, like these companies. They were pushing models and technology that were suiting them. And they were very complex. But for some that remember, at the time being, we had web services, and we were using a way to do it. It was called SOAP. I don't know if some of you used it, but it was like just the worst nightmare. And the rebellion was a rebellion of the community. The IT community says stop. They said stop for technology. That's why we had, for example, REST or Ajax or HTML5 and everything. But they stopped on the methodology. And these people that met and decided to write the manifest, they said stop. Stop with this crazy stuff. Please don't mention stop. I know that was like the worst ever piece of technology, whatever. So you need to explain that. And the way I do to explain that is to come back to you see the picture here, and I draw on a big piece of paper, and I draw here the the value chain. I have a customer or user that has needs. I have people that I'm writing, that I have ideas. I need the value chain is I need to write the specification or whatever. I need to write code and I need to test it and I need to put it in production, blah, blah, blah. And so I explained that by what happened and why we applied terrorism in IT and why it didn't work. Loss of quality, motivation, mastery, common purpose, blah, blah, blah. And why then agility, by doing things differently, by uniting these people together, we are able to change. But why do we need to do that? It's because we are in a complex world. So you all know now the word VUCA, but we are living in a VUCA world. Agility is here to serve complexity. And this is very important. And the EXCOM need to have discussions about the lack, about variability, the lack of being able to clearly define what has to be done. Because we are doing Agile because of these reasons. And I have today discussions with my EXCOM to say, okay, we have little knowledge about this context. So we have little knowledge about how much will it cost and what will be the value. But are we okay to discuss about that? Are we okay to do this project with little knowledge? And are we okay to invest a little bit to know more or not? But this is the type of discussions that an EXCOM need to have. So if they want to be Agile, they need to understand that. So this is where you start a little bit to explain a little bit about that. So they understand that agility is about rebellion. It comes from IT because it comes from the internet bubble, blah, blah, blah. And also I use a lot this book, you might know this one, Team of Teams, because it's not in the context of IT, because people think that, okay, it's IT, so I don't relate to IT, I'm a finance director, blah, blah, blah. So no, even in Army, they used the same way to reinvent themselves. So it works in other contexts. So that's why I use this book. All right. So now that you explained that in 30 minutes, you can explain what is, before explaining what is agility, what I do with them is I ask them to work and I put them in groups and I said, okay, we'll do a futurospective. And you will have to answer and create a video of a few minutes because, and you put a little bit of context, you say, suddenly you are a great success. You have achieved a 3 years transformation that has been a great success, visible to all stakeholders in your ecosystem. What do you observe concrete in 3 years? And what you say, you actually do the news, the big line, the big news. And so I want for you to make a video as a journalist about what happened in your company in 3 minutes and explain to us. So the first time I came with this idea to do that with an EXCOM, I was like, Jesus Christ, I'm not sure it will work. At some point they will say, get out from here, I don't want to see you. And actually it works. And for some reason, because it's a sort of a game, suddenly they are passionate about it. And more than ever, I've seen some great results about it. And they discuss about agility as a result and not about what it is. And this is what we want. We want them to project themselves about what agility was able to create and not what it is agility. Okay? And you want them to get out from the comfort zone. Yes, somebody is speaking. Hello?
No. I think someone was in mute.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. I continue. If there is any question, please, please.
Yeah,
so I continue. Yes?
We'll let you know if there's any question. Yeah.
Okay. So because actually the way I present, I don't see the comments. So please interrupt me. So after 1 hour, I finally arrived to explain. So this is the end of the morning, pretty much. And you arrive to explain what it is and how to do Agile. So, don't take more than 45 minutes because, to be honest, they will forget and they are not here to know. They are not here to become an expert. So you just explain a little bit what is Scrum, the values, the principles, the rituals, of course, very important. Insist on this, the benefits of agility in terms of, and try to make it as understandable as business stakeholders will want to hear, and discuss about what is an agile organization and how it works. After 45 minutes, then it's usually time for a break. You go have lunch and you come back, and here you will discuss about how to be agile. And you probably share with me the same feeling, and you would agree with me that this is the most important for the EXCOM to understand, is to be agile, not to do agile. To do agile, we know how to do agile, but to be agile, they need to embrace that. So then you really insist about the mindset. We need to move from a distrust to trust mindset. We need to have more feedback, fail fast, keep it simple, stupid is very important. How to improve automatically all the time with Kaizen and things like this. And teams versus individuals, it's something that I insist a lot. I believe that it's more important to focus on teams today than just on the individuals, because it's not because you have 11 great people that you will win the World Cup. Great teams are not just a bunch of great individuals. Of course, you will discuss about the value, how to prioritize by the value. And you will ask them to share some examples about things that we have seen that actually things are prioritized without knowing the value. And it happens in many organizations, even mine. But then you will be able to discuss how to change that. I spent quite a lot of time about estimation, the myth about estimations, because usually the companies that are control centered are putting a lot of focus on estimations. And actually, we need to remember that estimation is just a guess. And as we know, in a complex environment, estimations are just a pure guess. And sometimes we don't know much about it. So let's be honest and let's share that even at the EXCOM. And talent development, obviously it's what people say in companies. If you ask them what is the main asset, they will say people, and then you will ask them why you treat your people the way you treat them then. And you will explain how you can do things differently, especially in an agile world. All right, so after 45 minutes, then you ask them, we move from the awareness, now there are a bunch of information, and what you want the EXCOM, each individual of the EXCOM is to engage themselves. So how do we do that? The first one is...
Hi, Alain. Sorry, can
Yes.
I interrupt the question?
Yes, Zarina.
Just to go back to mindset, I know it's way up on your list, but I find it, I'd like to know what your opinion is with regards to how long should we give an organization or a team to actually integrate a new mindset into their way of doing things, like distrust to trust, for example. How long would you estimate?
All right. I will refer to the point number 4, which is estimation is bullshit. So I cannot estimate. I will tell you what I do is I witness it. And this is what I will share with the EXCOM is with my experience, I know how to set up the conditions, but I have set up so many teams and seen so many different results that I'm humble enough to know that I know nothing. The only thing I know is I will be able to witness it. And how do I know we moved from distrust to trust. The indicator is actually fairly simple. How you will count the number of ask for help within the team or within the thing.
Okay.
I mean, it's as simple as that. But you know, at some point, I probably, like, I would say, after doing Agile for a while, I was cocky enough to believe that I knew, you know, to answer this type of questions. As a consultant, I was answering, you know, it takes 3 iterations to know better. But no, actually, I know that it's bullshit again. It depends. I will tell you my best failure. It was at France Télévisions. I was working for France Télévisions as a CTO. And we set up agility, and it worked, success. And you're like, yes, well, great. And so we repeated for another team, and it didn't work. So what was my reaction? I will share my reaction was, the coach that started that didn't do a great job. You know, and so let's redo it. Let's start it again. We started again, it didn't work. What was my second reaction? There must be some people inside this team that are not good or whatever, so I will change 1 or 2 and it will work. Third time, it didn't work again. So then, you know, this is, I think this is what we call experiences. You realize several times that you fail. So here I'm like, okay, well, sometimes the context, what happened is I'm not sure. What I know now is to recognize if it worked or not, if a mindset is there or not. What I will say is, as soon as you realize that there is not a good mindset, try to reboot, change things. Try as many things as you can, but also put a lot of energy. But sometimes it doesn't work, and it's very difficult to understand why. And
I like your answer for 2 reasons. One is that, you know, EXCOMs always insist on getting some sort of measurable when it comes to how long will it take for our team to be this promised version that you've spoken of.
Yeah.
And secondly, and it proves to me that even through your experience, you've understood that, you know, in human behavior, it's very difficult to pinpoint exact amounts of any measurable.
Exactly.
I mean, there's many studies, etc. But if you had to put everything together, it's in itself, you've got to have an agile thinking just to manage all of that. And then secondly, you said reboot and you know, kind of change things yourself, which is in practice agility. So flexing between this and that. So yeah, thank you for that.
Yeah, and in the reboot, as much as you do it already when you boot a team, well, it's fairly simple. When you start a new team, usually you start from a blank page. And even if it's not easy, it's way more difficult to reboot a team because there is the legacy of it didn't work. And when it's the third time, you can imagine, you know, you need to call a shrink at this point to help a lot. But there is a lot of, you know, trauma there. So it's even more difficult. And the worst is that in companies, this is where we put even more pressure, because usually if it didn't work, it means that we are late or it's too costly. And we say, okay, no, now this is the last chance. I have people coming to me and say, okay, you do it, but this is the last chance. I'm like, no, then I'm not doing it because I have no idea. So it's not that I don't want to, but if you tell me this is my last chance to succeed, then I will not start because I have no idea. So please don't do that. You're putting pressure for no reason here. We just hope that it will work. And let's put hope more than pressure.
Yeah, I think from my experience, and I've been working with human beings in organizations for more than a decade, it's really an unpredictable space because, you know, you come with such a mix and match and historical, legacies for each individual that then comes together in the team and shows up in the team behaviors and interaction. So to change that, I always advise any sponsor, any leadership that's bringing a consultant like myself in is to be patient, because change is not easy for humans. And different ones react differently. So to change a mindset from, like, for example, distrust to trust, that's quite a big ask. It's not going to happen in a week or 2 weeks, and I won't be able to gauge exactly. Anyway, thank you for that, Alain.
All right. So now we're entering the engagement part. And what you want is, so far, these people, you can imagine these people, they worked a little bit during the day together, but they are more looking at you like, okay, you're the expert, you're telling us, and actually I have other things to do, like you said. So now you really want, you shared information, because actually this is what they asked for. They paid you some time to do that, but now you need to engage them. So what there are many ways to do it. In here, I just share one which works because it's simple, it works pretty well. But again, if you have others, I'm happy to discuss about that. The first one is to say, okay, now that you've learned from that, as an EXCOM, what do you want to see in your company to make it happen? Define the paradigm shifts necessary for your organization. And obviously they will be different. So here is an example, but don't look at what it is, because each organization could be different. So what are you coming from and what are you going to? What do you want to see? And by writing it very simply, people are starting to understand too. So they need several times to do it. Okay, sorry. And then you ask them to rate from this one, which one is the most important, or actually which one do they want to discuss today, because you will not be able to in the afternoon to discuss about all of them in detail. But what you want is from them to really grasp what it means to go from, for example, not aligned to courageous and constructive criticism or feedbacks. So, okay, you write that, but what does it mean? Do you all agree? Obviously, you just wrote that, so I would suspect that you're not aligned, because I hate this term align. People are writing things on the post-it. Suddenly, they say after 2 hours we are aligned. No, you're not aligned until you discussed, and each of you has the chance to express what they mean by that. So you pick one, doesn't matter the way you do it, you pick one, and then you ask them, please develop shared consciousness in the group through the sharing and convergence of ideas. So please take this one, paradigm shift, for example, distrust to trust, and you ask them to do it again, one for all. And the troika is the fact that I don't see each other. We discuss not face to face, but back to back. And why do we do that? It's so it introduces less biases. And when we've done that, it was very interesting, because people were suddenly realizing that they were not putting the same concept, the same words, the same importance behind the paradigm shift they just defined before. But what we've said is, please tell us what it means and what you should do to move from distrust to trust. Or if you don't know exactly what to do, because sometimes you don't know, it's okay. What have you witnessed in the past weeks, month, this behavior? Please tell us, document it. And so doing that, it really suddenly put them in a move mode, and they start doing things. All right. Then what I do is I start discussing about leadership. And here, 20 minutes only, but I can't remember your first name that you just discussed, but you mentioned exactly that part, that working with people is very difficult. I mean, or is very complex, I would say. And it's all the science behind, we discuss about servant leadership. What is the posture of a servant leadership? But if you want to be a servant leader, you need to embody the change. And what do you mean by embodying the change? You need to embody, to be there and to share. And you need also to share your emotions, because emotions are contagious. So you need to have this awareness that if you believe in it, you will share that with your teams, and this is where they will follow it. But if you don't, as an EXCOM, for example, if you are like, well, actually mistrust to trust, I'm not sure it's important in our company. I do it because they say, but we need to do it, but I'm not sure. I'm always telling an EXCOM, if you're not fully aligned in this, people will go in the cracks and your change will never happen. If one of you say, well, yes, I know we said that, but it was during a workshop, but it's, this is not that important, then it's finished, finito. People will suddenly say, it's not important for you, then it's not important for me. Okay, so this is where I try to engage them as much as possible. I try to engage their responsibility, their own responsibility. As an EXCOM, you are responsible to make it happen. You're responsible collectively, and you need to share the same concept, the same importance of this change. Even if you're the finance director or human resource director or marketing director or IT director, you need to fully share the same importance of this change, as it should be for every change within an organization. But here I'm talking about agility, and this is what I tell them. Okay, there's a comment here. I see that. Oh yes, sorry. I finished. So then I finish with an individual engagement, which is through a coach, a meditation. And we ask them, which kind of leader am I in terms of agility? And which kind of leader do I want to be in terms of embodying agility? And finally, we are sometime, and it's not often, it depends on the context, using council circle. Why? Because we want to anchor this change within them, with it individually, each EXCOM members. So this is a practice where you share, you take a baton, and when you have a baton, you're the only one to be able to discuss. You are in a circle like this, and you share, and we will ask questions like, what is your belief about agility now after this day? Do you feel like you can make it happen yourself, or things like this? And people will share what they have to say. And you know what? This is where a lot of things happen. This is where people are able to express, finally, actually, I'm not sure about it. Or, and we've seen so many reactions about that. I've seen directors crying during these things, literally crying, because they were oppressed, and they realized that they were part of an EXCOM that wasn't agile, that was actually instead of being all together, the fear was here, and people were finally able to express that. This is it. So you have 3 building blocks. You need to have a wrap up at the end. You ask them, what are the main takeaways of this long journey? So journey, and here it's a journey, but it's a long day. You ask them for their vote of confidence. How confident are they that they can change the company and becoming agile? And then you ask for return on time invested, and how did they invest well their time, and they vote with their hand. 5, it's good. So usually we have good ratings. Lesson learned, do not negotiate with the devil. So that means propose to do what you believe is important, or walk away. Do not do a presentation of 1 hour because it's not valuable. Preparation phase is crucial. So identify the sponsor and make sure you're aligned with the sponsor. Like I say, you make it happen gradually, warm up, awareness, engagement. Do not tell exactly what you're going to do, because if I tell the people that I will make them meditate in the afternoon, they will never hire me. And insist on misalignment as a source of discussions. And I think my last slide is that I changed for the last 10 years my type of books. So sometimes people are asking me what type of book do I read. So here you have there are different subjects, but they are all connected in one way or another. All right, I finished. I stopped sharing. I'm coming back with you. And if you have any questions, I'm so happy to answer.
And Zarina asked a few minutes earlier, do you have any other questions from anyone? Hara is asking if you can share the book list.
You're on
You're
mute,
Alain.
Alain.
Yeah, I put it on mute. Sorry. I will share, of course, maybe a screenshot, of course. I can do that.
Yeah.
With pleasure. I can discuss about all of these books anytime. Usually Agile people are always interested about books. And sorry, I was a bit too long.
So Alain, I just wanted to ask you, what comes next after this kind of presentation? What is the process that comes next?
That's actually a fairly good question. Usually, I'm thinking, because 3 years ago I had a type of answer, and now after 3 years being part of the EXCOM of L'Occitane, I have a different answer. What I used to do is having another meeting like 6 months after, like to state with them, so where are you at in terms of your transformation, and looking back to the paradigm shift, and asking ourselves, well, yes, this one we did move forward a little bit or not. What I realized for the last 3 years at L'Occitane is it takes a lot of time to align an EXCOM, a lot of time, and especially the details are so important. And really it takes me, so the follow-up of that for me is spending time with my peers at lunchtime, you know, through, or every little thing is a way to go back to that, you know, and to express. You know, I realized that not only at the EXCOM, but at, I have my IT organization is not so big, but it's already more than 200 people. So I have a line of directors, and at the line of my directors, it took me so much time already to align them on this mindset. And I'm talking more on the mindset than practices, obviously. Yeah? But here it took me, and these people are incredible. I love my team. I'm living the best experience of my life professionally, because we have a team that we love each other in this team. You know, we spend time together. I can tell you the level of trust is incredible. But the people, so I would say my report, if I would say it like this, it's not that they lie to me. It's not that sometimes they say yes, but they didn't understand it fully. So, and it took me a while to understand that. But I repeat the same concept, the same, why do we need to do that or this way? And they sometimes I witness they say yes, but that's not the reason why they changed. So I would say if you are in a position to do it, the best way to do that is Gembas. So I don't know if you're not familiar with that. It's a Gemba, right here.
Gemba walk.
A Gemba is actually a lean practice That is, you go on the field and you go see what's happening. And because the change doesn't happen in a meeting room, and it doesn't happen through a PowerPoint presentation. It happens on the field. And if you go with your peers and you go and see and look at how people work, and then you will say, see there, I witnessed that. What do you think about it? And the person will say, oh yes, we do that because we always done that this way, or blah, blah, blah. For example, you will witness some control that is not necessary, or things like this. And then you will have a chance to discuss about reality, the real things. So the best for me to see if agility is happening is to go on the field. For the EXCOM is try if you can to catch their attention and to ask them to come also.
Okay, thank you for that. I mean, the biggest challenge with EXCOM, I think, is their timing. You know, they like I asked the question earlier, there's a sense of impatience as well as the lack of time to actually, you know,
yes,
work on things, to take a step back and actually work on things. Yeah.
Yeah. But at the same time, if you have this discussion with them, for example, I had so many discussions with the finance director, and I said, because we changed totally the way we structure our budgets now. You know, we are doing some beyond budgeting type or capacity approach now, because, you know, it was nightmare to do the budgets. It took so much time and waste. And I had discussions with them. And if you have simple discussions like, well, did you ever see a roadmap or in your experience, a roadmap or a budget being followed the way it has been defined? And the person will say, no, never happens. I'm like, okay, so let's start with that as a base, and let's move forward. If I tell you that we will not totally increase the cost, but we will control the cost, but we'll measure the value, are you happy with that? Yes. Okay, so let's start with that. And it's always, you know, I do not discuss about agility per se. I discuss about things that will help me to move forward in terms of agility. I never discuss about theory, a practice or something. It's very rare that people are interested in that. But we are discussing about the result of agility.
Alain, you've got a few questions in chat. So
yes,
any tips for getting the whole EXCOM to agree to a full day workshop? So that's by
yes.
Yusuf.
Yes. Fairly easy. Find the one that has money to sponsor the workshop and ask them to pay a big price, because when it's expensive, the people are fully committed. I make Harold laughing upstairs. No, but I'm very serious. So if you want me to come, it will be super expensive. I'm not kidding. If it's expensive for this type of thing, if it's free, people will not even show up. They are not interested. So you need to find, and usually what I love is when it comes from the CEO. And if a CEO agrees that it's very important for his company, then you have discussions with him, you convince him, and then you say, you know, it's very important and it's a full day, and he has to but I always start with the top. Any views on how to encourage leaders to make time for their own learning? Oh, yes. First, do it for yourself. Demonstrate that you learn. Then do it for your subordinates, if you have some. Create time for them. And then it's viral. For example, in my team, we read books we have a book club. So, and we share about it. Doesn't mean that, and I encourage my people to read it during the work time. I encourage my people, sorry, it's terrible to say that, the people I work with, my teammates, I encourage my teammates to do what is important for them. and at the time they want. For example, if it is very important to do sport, go running, for example, for them during the day, and they didn't have time during their free time, go in the afternoon and you will find the time to do something else after. So we need to understand that we need to be also to be flexible and to give time for learning. So learning is about individual learning. It's about also collective learning, and create space for collective learning. This is the most important thing ever. As you know, retrospective is about learning only. We do not do a retrospective in agility for anything else. Otherwise, let's stop doing retrospective. And it's only people will come to you and say at first, when they are not aware about that, they say, you know, it's a lot of time, like 1 hour every 15 days or 2 weeks. You're like, what the fuck? 1 hour in 2 weeks? It's not a lot of time to ask yourself how to get better. And so if you have the habit to spend time learning together, then it's fine. Like, for example, what we do as a team, when I took this team, this position, I wanted to create a team of trust. So what we do is we spend every quarter, let's be honest, 3 times a year, and with COVID that has been difficult, 3 days away together. And during these 3 days, we are not necessarily working, but we are learning a lot. So we create the space for learning here. And what we like to say also is we have this policy of egoless, trying to remove the ego out of it. So it's not because I'm the boss, supposedly, but I have answers to everything. Of course not. So, and I can demonstrate it actually right now because I'm here discussing with you in Mauritius. It has been already 9 weeks away and they didn't call me. So I'm totally useless in my organization, which is fantastic. I can demonstrate that this team is able to work without me, which is fantastic, which I'm questioning myself now about the how do you say, utilité, how do you say in English? I have no idea.
Worth.
Yeah,
Worth.
Being worth. And I believe that it's the same with learning. We need to make sure that organizations understand how important it is to learn and how little do we learn. So another way to do that is, I'm not answering exactly the question, but encourage the leaders to make time for their own learning. For example, what I do is I offer books to my peers at the EXCOM all the time. So I buy books for them, and then I tell them, can we discuss about it? So it's a bit imposed, but sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. I don't know. There are things like this that you can do. I don't want to take too much time. So is there another question?
I don't see any question. Jeremy, can I think mine just first.
No, no